Welcome to episode 17. We are going to talk about toxic positivity and hustle culture. I get really passionate about talking about toxic positivity, especially in hustle culture. Toxic positivity is an obsession with positive thinking. It is the belief that people should put a positive spin on all of their experiences, even those that are profoundly tragic. Hustle culture is about constantly working and those that attempt to devote as many hours as possible to work. Often, especially in personal development and hustle culture, we will minimize our own grief, our own emotions, and our own experiences because someone else has had a different experience than our own. And we use that as a means to push ourselves forward and keep working around our feelings. We do not allow ourselves to be human because someone else has, quote, had it worse than us. I really feel that it minimizes our own experience as humans in the human form. Since we are human and are experiencing human emotions and we have feelings that come with it, I feel that it is completely unfair to ourselves when we say things like, get over it. Other people have had it worse than us. I have found that I do this to myself as well from time to time. And like everything, it's a practice. When we know better, we can do better. We have to be more consciously aware of our thoughts and what we say to ourselves so that we can catch them and reframe those thoughts and statements to ourselves. Toxic positivity has come up a lot during the pandemic. I know a lot of people that I've talked to have experienced difficulties who are saying things like, I know I'm supposed to be thankful that I still have my job because a lot of people have gotten laid off, but I'm really struggling with the extended hours. I reminded them, and I'll remind you, your experience is not invalid because someone else is having a more difficult time than you. Both can exist simultaneously. When we start minimizing our own experiences, especially when it comes to our own experiences or feelings by saying this person had it worse than me, so I shouldn't feel bad, I should just get over it. Well, newsflash, you are not that person. You are you. Your experience is your own experience, and their experience is their experience. And how that person has experienced their experience and how they overcame it is completely their responsibility. Some real or fictitious story about how it could have been worse is not helpful to your situation or for processing your feelings. Although some of our experiences can be unfortunate, we have to take responsibility for our own experiences, and then we have to work through them ourselves without judgment or comparison. We have to stop comparing ourselves because that's the equivalent of saying you are not allowed to feel sad because there's someone else who has had it worse than you. Or on the flip side of that, that's the same as saying you cannot experience joy because there's someone else that's experiencing more joy than you. If you want, you can think of a story or experience worse than yours or better than yours to negate your experience. We have to stop doing this because it minimizes our ability to have human experiences with authenticity. Furthermore, I truly believe that gratitude and how much being thankful for what you have and how using positive affirmation really changes your mindset for the better. But I also 100% believe in being in your humanity and feeling your feelings. In episode 16, I talk about really getting in tune with what you are feeling and allowing yourself to feel those feelings so you can let them go rather than being your feelings and letting them consume you. A lot of people will ignore their feelings, as I mentioned in that episode, and they will just bottle them up until it spills out somewhere else or not even recognize their feelings when they have them because they've allowed themselves to become so numb. I've seen toxic positivity sometimes come up in the personal development space. I'm not saying all personal development coaches or practitioners teach toxic positivity, but there are some individuals that I personally don't follow or support. And these are the individuals that recommend pushing through your pain and ignoring how you feel and doing whatever it takes no matter what. I personally don't agree with that because it sets you up emotionally to be like a volcano if you just keep stuffing down your feelings. Imagine if your feelings were like baking soda in a grade school volcano. You just keep packing down the baking soda event after event, and you keep ignoring it when you should be dealing with it emotionally. Then all of a sudden, you spill vinegar everywhere when you're trying to make homemade pickles, and literally and figuratively, the vinegar has caused this emotional volcano to erupt. Had you processed your feelings instead of pushing them down and mowing over them to keep moving forward, you would not erupt like a grade school volcano. The point is not ignoring how you feel and not minimizing your feelings. It's also not minimizing other people's feelings either. A lot of people minimize how other people feel, and it's to the point, like I said, we are trained to minimize our own feelings. I very much felt like a lot of people have been defaulting to the mindset of, quote, I need to be grateful for what I have. And I agree that you should be grateful for what you have. But if you are feeling grief because, for example, budget cuts happen and things you once felt you had the security of were lost, and you did remain employed, it doesn't mean that you aren't still experiencing a loss. Again, you can experience those feelings with authenticity and still be grateful. You just don't have to be grateful in that same moment as a means to minimize your feelings about loss of something that made you feel some type of way. Just because you maintain your job doesn't mean you didn't experience a change that was a loss to you, and you're still allowed to grieve that, even if it wasn't as significant in your mind compared to someone who completely lost everything. But you have to remember, we're not comparing ourselves to others, because that's one of the problems in itself. Other ways toxic positivity shows up in mainstream culture, like wall decor quotes that say good vibes only. And I'm not saying if you have something that says this, you're guilty of toxic positivity, because we all probably have something with a quote like this somewhere. I care more about how you are interacting with yourself and with others more than I care about quotes that are printed randomly on things or walls. However, if you or someone you know is constantly saying things like good vibes only, you'll get over it. Other people have it a lot worse than you. Crying won't help, or just smile instead. You are guilty of toxic positivity. How toxic positivity shows up in hustle culture, and I will give you a real life example. I had someone who told me that I was being negative after I had expressed that I felt tired after being in Zoom meetings all day. I had started my day at 7 a.m. and I had been in meetings throughout the entire day. I had another meeting scheduled at 7:30 p.m. And if you're not good at math, that's okay. That's about 12 and a half hours at the start of that last meeting. This person had the audacity to tell me that I was being negative for expressing that I felt tired. That amount of time, energy, and work I had already put in, and was still going to put in more at 7:30, was not a valid enough reason to express that I felt tired. This is where the toxicity comes in. Here's a person who is literally telling me I'm being negative for saying I feel tired, as if I haven't done enough to be allowed to feel that way. It's extremely dangerous and harmful to make someone who is already on the path to burnout, working 12 and a half hours before they start their final meeting of the day, feel like they haven't done enough, and tell them that they're being negative for having felt tired. Do not let people who don't want to deal with their emotions cause you to question the validity of yours. People like this are not keepers, and I'm not sorry. What's interesting is that I had expressed the exact same thing about my feeling of tiredness to another person that same day and had a completely different reaction and response. The other person said, I hope you are able to go to bed soon after your last meeting and get some sleep. The response difference goes to show you how one person can respond in a toxic positive way and the other can respond with kindness and compassion. Be mindful of how you are responding to other people and how other people are responding to you. If people are constantly minimizing your feelings, negating your feelings, making you feel unheard, and there are unrealistic expectations, then I definitely think it's time for you to stop interacting with those people. You all have a choice to do what you want, but these people are clearly not listening to how you feel, and you are not going to be heard. Another example of how toxic positivity shows up in hustle culture is when people say things like, failure is not an option. Unpopular opinion, failure is part of growth. We have to fail in order to learn. It's a very dangerous thing when failure is not an option and you do fail. What happens then? What happens when you fail? Is it the end of the world? To those that have the failure is not an option mentality, they might feel that way, and their feelings are valid. But that all or nothing mentality is not helpful when you don't get the outcome that you expected. Failure is necessary for growth. Imagine if Thomas Edison did not fail 1,000 times. We would not have the light bulb. Failure is necessary for growth. People will beat themselves up for not being successful at the first try at something. And I've been guilty of it. We have to give ourselves grace and compassion. I think we have unfortunately blended toxic positivity and hustle culture together with the mentality of never give up, think happy thoughts, good vibes only, stop being so negative, just get over it, just be happy, no excuses, just keep pushing forward. Oh, and let's not forget the one, you can sleep when you're dead, and rise and grind. When we're only concerning ourselves with just being positive and doing whatever it takes to keep moving forward, we're going to burn out because we're not even recognizing the signs and symptoms of burnout. We're not even allowing ourselves to recover, be authentic in our feelings, or even addressing the issues. We're telling people to get over it. We're telling people to work harder. We're telling them to work longer, sleep when they're dead. We're telling them to grind harder, hustle more, sleep later, eat later, worry about their health later, see their family later, do everything else later except be positive. Toxic positivity is training people to burn themselves out and maintain a positive attitude about it. It's really unhealthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. To combat toxic positivity, we want to embrace more possibility thinking, allowing for genuine, authentic optimism and expression of feelings and experiences. We want to meet people where they are, give responses such as, it's okay not to feel okay, or I understand this is a really tough time for you, and I'm here for you. Asking, how can I support you during this time? What do you need? Do you want advice or do you just want to vent? And that last question will save you a lot of time and energy because a lot of people just want to be heard. They don't want your advice. I think when we start being more authentic with our communication about how we feel and really validating ourselves and others, we as a collective can create greater health, greater well-being, and greater happiness amongst us all. If everyone starts making the decision to do better and be better, things will get better. I truly think that these conversations are necessary to have a better society. I would love to help you authentically and productively process your feelings, as well as transform your busyness into work-life balance by prioritizing so that you can live your best life while being successful. My information is in the description below, and you can connect with me for a free discovery call.